Alrighty, guys, got some great news for you. You can now access every single pick I make for this video right now. All you have to do is fast forward to the end of the video. That's where my quick pick recap is. It has every single pick I made for this video right at the end, so you can get in and out of here without having to waste any more time listening to me. God forbid you'd actually have to watch an entire video here on YouTube. And with that, let's go ahead and begin. Sixers, Cavaliers, 7 o'clock Eastern tip-off on Wednesday, November 30th, 2022. Cleveland's the 4-point favorite at home, totals to 11. I'm 4-0 in my last 4 extra daily bets on my website. Now, the Cavaliers lost 2 out of their last 3. They averaged only 97 points a game during that span. They've also had a tough time scoring in the middle quarters of the game. They're in the bottom 5 in second quarter scoring at home, bottom 5 in third quarter scoring at any location. They're facing a Philly team who plays some really tough defense themselves. They actually have the lowest defensive field goal percentage on the road in the NBA. And even though they were banged up over the past week or so, the Sixers did get the W in their last 3 straight. They also went 8-1 against the spread in their last 9. Joel Embiid scoring over 32 points per contest. He's second in the league in points per game. Meanwhile, Tobias Harris, he's averaging nearly 17 points a night himself. When it comes to shooting the basketball, the Sixers are currently leading the NBA in offensive field goal percentage on the road. Now, injury-wise, Harden and Maxey are still out for Philly. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, Kevin Love and Jarrett Allen are out. Lamar Stevens is also day-to-day. When it comes to the total, Cleveland went 5-1 to the under in their last 6. Meanwhile, Philadelphia saw unders recently against Atlanta, Orlando, and Charlotte. I'm going to lean toward Philadelphia +4, keeping this one close, under 211. Next ball game, it is going to be Hawks Magic, 7 o'clock East. Atlanta's the 6-point favorite, totals 227.5. Now, if you want to see whether I'm making a play on the money line total or against the point spread, there's only one way to do that, and that's to sign up for my extra daily bet on patreon.com/BrockPage. And just a reminder, guys, if you sign up for that package here today, you're going to get access to that membership for the next 30 days. And of course, as an added bonus, just because I like you, you're also going to get access to my daily best play absolutely free. It's going to be included with your purchase. I currently have over 625 members. We're signed up and active on that site right now. And once again, guys, I'll include a link for my extra daily bet in the description section below. Moving on, Wizards, Nets, 7:30 p.m. East. Brooklyn's -5, totals 229.5. Now, Brooklyn's having a tough time covering the point spread at home. These guys are covering just 40% of their contests at the Barclays Center. They're also going to work here tonight without Ben Simmons, TJ Warren, Yuta Watanabe, and Alondas Williams. All of those guys are sitting out. But even when Brooklyn's mostly healthy, the Nets are having a tough time grabbing rebounds. They're in the bottom 10 in defensive boards, bottom 3 in offensive boards as well. They're facing a Washington team on the other side who does a real nice job of rebounding themselves. These guys are currently in the top 10 in offensive boards, and they're actually one of the better field goal shooting teams on the road. Now, Bradley Beal, he's currently making over 52% of his shots from the field. Of course, he's also the team's leading scorer with 23.5 points a night. More of the same from Beal. Actually, his points per game were a little bit higher last year, but still, if he's on your team, he's going to be shooting the ball and making a lot of baskets. Anyway, Kristaps Porzingis, he's right behind him with 21 points a game himself, along with 8 rebounds. When it comes to defensive play, the Wizards are in the top 5 in guarding the field goal. Now, injury-wise, Rui Hachimura, he is out with an ankle. Meanwhile, for Brooklyn, once again, Simmons and friends, they're out. David Duke is also questionable. When it comes to the total, 3 out of Brooklyn's last 4 did stay under the number. They're also 60% to the under in their own building. I'm going to lean toward Washington +5, under 229.5. Next contest, it is going to be Bucks, Knicks, 7:30 p.m. East. Milwaukee's the 6-point favorite, totals 228. And Milwaukee failed to cover in 6 out of their last 10. And they're going to work without Serge Ibaka and Marion Beauchamp. And even when these guys are mostly healthy, these guys have done a bad job of scoring on the road. They're dead last in offensive field goal percentage while traveling. They're also dead last in shooting from the stripe away from home as well. They're facing a Knicks team on the other side who has little issue getting to the hoop at the Garden. These guys are currently in the top 3 in home scoring. They're led by Jalen Brunson, who's averaging 21.5 points a night. Meanwhile, Julius Randle, he's scoring over 21 points a game himself. He's also averaging nearly 9 boards a game. And speaking of rebounding the basketball, well, the Knicks are currently in the top 5 in offensive boards per game. When it comes to the injury report, the Knicks are relatively healthy right now. No late-day scratches as far as I know. Meanwhile, for Milwaukee, once again, Ibaka and Beauchamp, they are out for them. Now, when it comes to the total, Milwaukee saw their last 4 straight get over the posted number. Meanwhile, New York, 78% to the over at Madison Square Garden this season. I'm going to lean toward New York, plus 6, over 228. Next contest, it is going to be Heat at the Celtics. And that'll be a 7:30 Eastern tip-off at the TD Garden. Boston's -9 in front of their home crowd, totals 223. And with the absence of Jimmy Butler here tonight for Miami, I actually think this is a pretty generous number for Boston backers. They got the W in 9 out of their last 10 ball games. They covered the point spread in 80% of those matchups. They're also 10-1 straight up at the Garden this year, and they're scoring more points per contest at home than any other team in the league. Certainly doing a great job on the offensive end of the court. Now, Jason Tatum scoring just about 31 points a game, along with 7 rebounds. And, of course, Malcolm Brogdon's drilling over 46% of his three-pointers. Now, they're facing a banged-up Miami squad who's, once again, going to work without Jimmy Butler, Dedmon, Robinson. Let's start over. They're going to work without Jimmy Butler, but in addition to that, they have some guys who are listed as day-to-day. Dedmon, Robinson, Highsmith, Hero, Strus, Martin, Vincent, Jovic, and Kane. They're all listed as questionable. Those guys, there's a possibility they might not play. But even when this team is mostly healthy, the Heat's just 2-7 straight up away from South Beach, and they're having a tough time getting to the basket. These guys are scoring just 105 points a game on the road, and they're making only 43% of their field goals in that same category. Now, when it comes to scoring, Miami saw 5 out of their last 7 stay under the line. They're also 78% to the under on the road. Now, Boston went 4-3 to the under in their last 7 themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Celtics -9, under 223. Next ball game, it is going to be Spurs at the Thunder, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Oklahoma City's -5, totals 231.5. Now, OKC may have a tough time covering this number if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander doesn't play. He's currently questionable with a hip injury. Meanwhile, as a team, the Thunder lost 5 out of their last 6 ball games, and they covered the point spread only twice during that stretch. OKC's biggest issue this season has been their defensive play. These guys are giving up over 118 points a game, and they get out-rebounded nearly every night on the offensive end. They're facing a Spurs team who, well, they haven't won many games themselves, but they did cover recently against the likes of Portland, Milwaukee, and Memphis. They've also relied on Devin Vassell, who's good for 20 points a game, along with 41% shooting from three-land. Now, Dougie McDermott, he's also drilling over 41% of his three-pointers himself. When it comes to the injury report, Richardson, Langford, and Bates Diop, they're listed as questionable for San Antonio. And for, man, we're really struggling getting words out today. Maybe it's CTE from all the football I played my whole life. Struggling getting words out today. Maybe I had a stroke in my sleep. I don't know. But for OKC on the other side, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is questionable with a hip. Now, total-wise, Shai or not, This one probably should get over the number. Not a whole lot of defense on either side. OKC's 80% to the over at the Paycom Center. They're also 14-7 to the over for the entire season. I'm going to lean towards San Antonio +5, keeping this one close, over 231.5. I sound like John Fetterman for you Pennsylvania residents. Anyway, next matchup, Raptors, Pelicans, 8 o'clock East. Toronto's -1.5, totals 223. And even though the Raptors are favored on the road, they're one of the worst shooting teams in the East. Toronto's currently in the bottom 5 in offensive field goal percentage. They're also making just 32% of their three-pointers. They're facing a Pelicans team who won 7 out of their last 10. And even though they're a little banged up here today, I still think they can get the job done. Zion Williamson's averaging 22.5 points a game, along with 6 rebounds. Meanwhile, Jonas Valanciunas, he's grabbing nearly double-digit rebounds a night. Now, no real surprise here, guys. The Pels are one of the better rebounding teams in the game. They're currently in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive boards. Now, injury-wise, McCollum, Marshall, and Nance are questionable. Ingram's out. Meanwhile, for Toronto, Otto Porter Jr. is out for them. Comes to the total, 5 out of Toronto's last 7 did stay under the total. Meanwhile, New Orleans went 70% to the under in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward the Pelicans, +1.5, under 223. Next matchup, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, 8 o'clock East. Memphis is -2.5, totals 231. And the Grizzlies won their last 2 straight, and they're doing a nice job of scoring on the road. They're in the top 10 in points per game while traveling. They're also in the top 3 in offensive rebounding. John Morant's grabbing 6 rebounds a night. He's also the team's leading scorer with 28.5 points a game. And they're facing a Minnesota team who lost their last 3 straight themselves. They've been pretty bad at covering the number. They're just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10. 3-8 against the spread on their home court. Minnesota's biggest problem is their defensive play this year. These guys are currently in the bottom 3 in home points allowed. And they're one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the West. Now, injury-wise, McLaughlin's out. McDaniels is questionable. Meanwhile, on the other side, Brooks and LaRavia are questionable. Danny Green's out. When it comes to the total, 4 out of Memphis' last 5 did get over the line. Minnesota saw 5 out of their last 8 get over the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward Memphis, -2.5, over 231. Next contest, it is going to be Rockets at the Nuggets, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Denver's the 11-point favorite, totals 231.5. Now, the Nuggets are on a 3-game winning streak, and they're arguably the best shooting team in the game. The Nugs are currently in the top 3 in offensive field goal percentage, and they're making 41% of their three-pointers at the Ball Arena. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, he's making 50% of his shots from beyond the arc. Meanwhile, Nikola Jokic, he's averaging a team-best 23 points a night himself. Now, these guys are taking on a Houston squad on the other side who lost 6 out of their last 9 themselves, and they really struggle on the road. Out of these guys, 12 games away from Houston this year, the Rockets got the W only twice. When it comes to offensive production, these guys nearly have the lowest offensive field goal percentage in the league. Now, injury-wise, Jayshawn Tate is out for the Rockets. Meanwhile, for Denver, Green and Porter are out for them. Bones Highland is also listed as questionable as well. When it comes to the total, Denver saw 5 out of their last 7 home games stay under the total. Meanwhile, Houston saw unders against the likes of OKC, Indy, and Dallas. Give me Denver -11, under 231.5. Next contest, it is going to be Clippers at the Jazz, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Utah's -7, totals 224. And for a team laying 7 points here, the Jazz have played some horrible basketball. They're currently on a 5-game skid, and they took the loss in 8 out of their last 10. And these guys are also having issues on the defensive end of the court. They're allowing 116 points a night, and they're also in the bottom 10 in guarding the field goal. Certainly bad news there. They're facing a Clipper team on the other side who won their last 2 straight. And they also covered the point spread in 6 out of their last 9. And regardless of how bad they are offensively, you just can't score on these guys. They're currently in the top 3 in the NBA in fewest points allowed per game. And the Clippers also have one of the lowest defensive field goal percentages in the league. Ivica Zubac, he's grabbing over 8 defensive boards a night. 11 total rebounds per game for Zubac. Meanwhile, Norm Powell, he's averaging nearly 15 points a night himself. He is the active roster's leading scorer here tonight. Now, injury-wise, George, Kennard, and Kawhi are still out. John Wall is questionable. Meanwhile, for the Jazz, Juzang and Conley are out. Bolmaro is questionable. When it comes to the total, Utah saw their last 2 straight stay under the number. Unders against the likes of Chicago and Phoenix. Meanwhile, the Clippers are 73% to the under for the whole year. I'm going to lean toward the LA Clippers +7, under 224. Next matchup, it is going to be Bulls at the Suns, 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Phoenix is -5, totals 228. Now, the Suns won their last 5 straight, and they're nearly unbeatable at home. These guys are 11-1 straight up at the Footprint Center. They're also holding their competition to just 105 points a game in their own building. Now, scoring-wise, Devin Booker's averaging a team-best 27 points a game. Meanwhile, Mikal Bridges, he's knocking down 44% of his shots from three-land. Now, they're facing a Bulls team who failed to cover in 5 out of their last 8. Chicago's also got a .400 win percentage on the road. And they're having a tough time guarding the 3-ball. They have one of the highest defensive 3-point percentages in the Eastern Conference. Now, injury-wise, Dragic, Caruso, Dosunmu, they're all listed as questionable for Chicago. Meanwhile, for Phoenix, Chris Paul's out. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, 4 out of Phoenix's last 5 did stay under the line. Meanwhile, on the other side, Phoenix, they're also 67% to the under in front of their own fans. Now, on the other side, Chicago's gone 60% to the under for the entire season themselves. I'm going to lean toward Phoenix -5, under 228. Next ball game, it is going to be Pacers at the Kings, 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Sacramento's -4.5, totals 241. Now, the Kings lost their last 3 straight, and they did fail to cover in 4 out of their last 5. Aside from ranking dead last in home offensive boards, Sacramento's really had problems on defense. They're letting their opponents make over 50% of their field goals against them at home. They're also letting their competition make 40% of their three-pointers against them at the Golden One Center. They're facing an Indy team who has little problems getting on the scoreboard themselves. They're averaging 116 points a game as a team. They're also led by Tyrese Halliburton, who's scoring 19 points a game. Tyrese is also averaging nearly a dozen assists per contest. So not only is he scoring it, he's dishing it as well. Now, Miles Turner is knocking down 40% of his three-pointers himself. Total-wise, Indy saw overs recently against Brooklyn, Charlotte, and Denver. Meanwhile, Sacramento went 70% to the over in their last 10. I'm going to lean toward Indy +4.5, over 241. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the video. It is going to be Blazers at the Lakers, 10:30 Eastern start time. The LA Lakers are -5, totals 224. LA got the W in 5 out of their last 7. They also covered the point spread 5 times during that span. Anthony Davis leads the team in points with 26 a game. He's also leading the NBA in rebounds per contest. LeBron James is also averaging over 25 points a night himself. When it comes to rebounding the basketball, the Lakers are in the top 5 in offensive boards. Now, they're facing a Portland squad who lost 6 out of their last 7 themselves, and they're still going to work without Damian Lillard, Gary Payton, and Keon Johnson. They're going to work without Damian Lillard. Meanwhile, these guys are listed as day-to-day. Gary Payton and Keon Johnson. They're both listed as questionable. I'm having problems reading my notes here today, having problems speaking. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on. But anyway, when it comes to offensive production, the Blazers are having a tough time getting on the scoreboard. They're in the bottom 10 in points per contest, and they're one of the worst offensive rebounding teams in the West. Now, total-wise, Portland's 67% to the under as the road team. Meanwhile, the Lakers went 4-1 to the under in their last 5. I'm going to lean toward the Lakers -5, under 224. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap. I like Philadelphia +4, under 211. I've got no free pick for the Atlanta-Orlando game. Give me Washington +5, under 229.5. I'm 4-0 in my last 4 extra daily bets on my website. Give me New York +6, over 228. Boston -9, under 223. San Antonio +5, over 231.5. New Orleans +1.5, under 223. Memphis -2.5, over 231. Denver -11, under 231.5. LA Clippers +7, under 224. Phoenix -5, under 228. Indy +4.5, over 241. With my next and final free pick, give me the Lakers -5, under 224.